Deep in the forest, one man sets out to build his winter-proof cabin using no power tools. But brute force is not enough out here. From building his own mechanical crane to engineering an ancient heating system, Bogdan has to invent his own solutions. With only his dogs for company, his plan is to create a permanent homestead in the wild before the autumn rains arrive. His first decision is the site. He chooses a sloped hillside and not the bottom of the valley, and this choice is strategic. When the winter snow melts, water runs downhill, and low ground would leave the build sitting in soggy soil. He has marked the foundation, but cannot build on the surface. Stacking a stone cabin on this soft forest floor is like building on a sponge. The walls will sink and eventually crack. He must dig down to the hard mineral earth. With the trenches dug, the real labor begins. He now has to gather the fieldstones for the cabin. In total, the build will require around 800 stones. But this shelter is only the first step. His vision goes far beyond a simple cabin. He plans to build a complete off-grid camp, featuring a paved courtyard, an outdoor hearth, and a thriving vegetable garden. But before any of that can happen, he must first raise the cabin walls. To build a strong cabin with the boulders, he needs mortar. First, he digs a mixing pit directly in the ground. He needs earth for the mix, but regular dirt is full of rocks and debris that will weaken the bond. To solve this, he builds a simple screening tool to filter the junk, letting only fine soil fall through. Mixed with water, this smooth dust becomes a rock-solid cement. With the mortar ready, the foundation work can begin. The largest stones go in first, which will bear the full load of the cabin. For the corners, he looks for large stones with flat faces and squared shapes, turning the corners from weak points into structural pillars. Excess mortar can soak rainwater between the stones and weaken the wall over time. To fix this, he ties dry twigs together to craft a simple brush. By scrubbing the joints, he leaves only solid stone exposed, forcing the rainwater to slide right off. He is building during the dry season. This is a calculated move to take advantage of the firm ground, aiming to raise the walls and roof before the autumn rains arrive 1 month from now. Dragging boulders across the forest floor is one thing, but as the walls rise, Bogdan hits a hurdle. He now has to lift stones weighing up to 700 pounds chest high. Brute force is no longer enough. He needs primitive engineering. Using 2 trees as the frame, he builds a primitive crane. For the boom, he uses a debarked green pole, just flexible enough to take the strain without snapping. But the secret is the counterweight. A sack full of rocks is tied to one end, so the stone on the other side can be lowered with control. Bogdan is not just building walls, he is building around a traditional Slavic heating system called the pech. Instead of letting the fire send its heat straight up and out, The pitch forces that heat through a horizontal channel first, so the masonry absorbs it before it reaches the vertical chimney. Heat traveling through the tunnel will warm the masonry first, and then release that heat slowly back into the cabin. He fills the tunnel with stone and mortar to build thermal mass. One end will house the fire, the other will connect to the chimney, and the top will be closed over with flat slabs. His bed will be placed on top, and every fire will warm both the bed and the cabin for hours. The heavy stone traps the heat perfectly, but a solid stone wall also means total darkness. To bring in natural light, he wants an arched opening in the wall. But building a structural stone arch requires immense time and precision. Instead, Bogdan finds a fallen tree whose natural curve already matches the span. This is called compass timber. By using the trunk's natural shape and strength, he gets an instant arch and avoids the much harder job of building one from stone. But a window isn't the only opening he needs. Before the walls can go any higher, he must also establish the main doorway. He builds a heavy timber frame using precise mortise and tenon joinery. One timber is carved with a projecting peg, the next is drilled to receive it. Locked together, this ancient friction joint creates a rigid frame, strong enough to support the tons of rock that will soon surround it. Achieving this precision without electricity reveals the true nature of the build. Every single cut, joint, and shaped stone in this camp is executed using only hand tools. In the humid environment of a stone cabin, trapped air will quickly breed mold. To prevent this, Bogdan engineers a small ventilation window in the back wall. Paired with the main door, it creates a constant cross-draft, forcing the moisture out. To finish the hearth, Bogdan anchors a simple timber shelf above the fire. It is a practical addition, keeping his daily essentials warm and safely away from the damp floor. Every off-grid builder has to make the same choice: wood or stone. Wood is faster to build, and it feels warmer right away because it insulates well. But it does not hold heat for long, and in a damp forest, it is always at risk from rot and fire. Stone is much harder work. It feels cold at first, and it takes longer to heat up. But once it does, it keeps that warmth for much longer. With the masonry complete and the first fire drawing perfectly, he can finally take a moment to rest. But the cabin is still open to the elements. The next phase of the build is the roof. But this project requires multitasking. He also plants a small vegetable garden so his future food grows while he works on the build. His plan is to push the cover outward, extending the roof to shelter extra space for the kitchen area. But a wider roof needs support. Before he can extend it, he has to plant a column at the outer edge to carry the load. For that, he has chosen a nearby tree, just about the right shape and size. This is dense, strong timber, perfect for a support post, but also very heavy. Peeling off the bark gives the timber a better chance to last. If left on, it traps moisture against the wood and gives insects and decay a place to take hold. But the most vulnerable part is the part that will be buried into the ground. Raw wood buried in damp earth would quickly rot. To stop this, Bogdan relies on an ancient Japanese technique called yakisugi. The heat burns away the outer fibers and leaves behind a blackened carbon layer. That crust helps repel moisture, insects, and decay. While the fire does the slow work of sealing the post, Bogdan heads back into the trees to gather the roof's main rafters. The log now has to be raised all the way onto the front wall and seated precisely. Before the lift, Bogdan gets both contact points ready, shaping the log and creating a flat seat to rest on. Transporting the log is one thing, elevating it is another. He relies once again on his wooden lever crane. With the rafter securely anchored to the wall, the charred post is firmly locked into the earth. What remains is to lower the rafter onto it. The same process is repeated for the second rafter. Once again, the bark is stripped off. But this post is too large for the hearth, so he lights a separate fire and carefully chars the bottom in the open flames. This raw timber is highly irregular. Before the rafter can be lowered, Bogdan must first reshape the support log. He locks the new column in place, tying the entire skeleton together. But the rainy season is getting closer, so he must immediately close the roof. He needs to harvest around 50 straight poles and bring them to the site. With no iron nails, Bogdan relies on wooden pegs to lock down the poles. But for these joints to hold securely, the diameter of every peg must be exact. To solve this, he carves a custom measuring plate. This homemade gauge guarantees that every peg he whittles will perfectly match the holes made by his drill. Using wooden pegs is a method older than modern hardware, but for green timber it is often the better system. Metal rusts, and rigid fasteners loosen as heavy beams dry and move. Tree nails do the opposite. As the timber shrinks, the joints clamp down harder around the pegs and grow tighter over time. With the poles locked and forming the base layer of the roof, Bogdan wants to turn this wooden deck into a system that efficiently traps the heat and keeps the rain out. But before he can move on, the weather turns. As rain falls through the unfinished roof, work comes to a halt. Bogdan is forced to take shelter, facing the reality of off-grid construction. He must wait for the storm to pass. The rain was heavy, but the interior of the cabin didn't flood. When work finally resumes, he does not go straight to the roof insulation. The wooden roof can't be sealed without a way to safely channel the fire's smoke. He goes back to masonry, beginning work on the chimney. Bogdan now turns to the last gaps between the walls and the roof. Once those are sealed, he can begin the heavy work of waterproofing the roof. His plan is a layered system. First, a thick insulating layer of dry grass, then soil, and lastly, living plants on top. Each layer has a job, and together they turn the roof into a protective blanket. The first layer of dry grass holds still air inside the stalks and between the fibers, and that trapped air helps slow down heat loss. To help manage water, the roof has an inclination. At the lower edge, where the runoff will collect, Bogdan digs a drainage trench. It works by catching water from the roof and the hillside and carrying it away from the cabin. Digging the trench also supplies the material for the next roof layer: mud. As he packs the wet soil over the canopy, it crushes the loose grass, locking the insulation down and turning the raw materials into one solid cover. So far, the cabin has only been a project. Now, with the roof closed and the hearth burning, Bogdan can finally spend the night inside. But the build is far from over. Tomorrow, Bogdan expands the footprint. He will lay the interior floor, frame the outer porch, and engineer a dedicated kitchen bar. The shelter is ready. Now, the homestead begins. The next morning, he heads down to the creek looking for a key building material, one that will transform the cabin. If this place is going to work for daily life, he needs solid, flat surfaces instead of mud all around him. He is searching for slate. In a forest where nothing is perfectly straight, this stone is a rare exception. Born from ancient mud crushed under immense tectonic pressure, this metamorphic rock naturally cleaves into perfect flat sheets. For Bogdan, these natural plates are exactly what he needs for the projects he is about to build next. A dirt floor works only as long as the weather is kind. In this landscape, spring snowmelt saturates the ground, rain keeps the soil soft, and every trip in and out brings more mud back inside. He lays the slabs over a leveled bed of wet clay mortar, fitting each piece into the next like a puzzle. The result is a hard, durable floor that can handle both fire and daily use. It will not burn from stray embers, and it will not turn back into mud under constant foot traffic. With the floor in place, Bogdan can move on to the next thing the cabin still needs: a proper kitchen counter. But a wooden counter beside an open hearth would be a fire risk. Sooner or later, heat, sparks, or hot pots would scorch it and wear it down. So he decides to give the counter a stone top instead. He is planning to set the slabs in place with mud. But with a sloppy mix, it would be like trying to lay heavy stone on porridge. So instead of wet, soggy mud, he makes a drier, firmer mix that stays in place and can hold the weight of the heavy slabs on top. Now he has a stable, heat-resistant landing pad, where he can safely place the red-hot cookware moving straight from the flames. But inside, he has the opposite problem to solve. A cold stone bed would be miserable, but a bed directly over fire-heated masonry would be too hot. He needs something in between. He adds an intermediate buffer layer of mortar and wood. The masonry below can still store and release heat, but the wooden slices break that direct contact and regulate how the warmth reaches the sleeping surface. Since the kitchen counter works so well, Bogdan decides to repeat the idea inside and create another usable surface. The cabin also needs an interior table for eating and working. Shifting back to carpentry, he uses a thick forked trunk as the main support. Bogdan's ingenuity has defined the entire build so far. Instead of fighting the environment, he works with it. Designing a thermal buffer for his bed, building a fireproof stone counter from river slate, and insulating the roof with natural layers. But all of that thermal engineering is useless if cold wind and rain can blow straight through the walls. His next priority is to fully seal the cabin by closing up the open windows. He moves on to the rear window first. It is a small opening, but sealing it is the first step toward making the cabin weather-tight. He needs a window that opens for ventilation, but also locks tightly when the weather turns cold or night falls. He first makes two separate pieces: the outer frame for the wall opening and the inner sash that will open and close. Both are built with mortise and tenon joinery, his most used carpentry technique during this build. He has managed to salvage a pane of glass. Once cut to size, the little grooves on the frame will cradle it neatly in place. Moss fills the last gaps, and the rear window is done. But a bigger challenge is still ahead. At the main arched opening, nothing is straight, and the frame has to follow both the curved arch and the rough stone underneath. A rigid glass pane of this scale would be very difficult to cut accurately, and would almost certainly crack eventually as the materials shift with the seasons. So Bogdan uses a plastic sheet. With the windows in place, the cabin is finally starting to feel enclosed. But one opening still matters more than all the rest: the doorway. The building of the door reveals a deeper logic behind the whole build. The absence of nails is not decoration or style, it's an adaptation. In a damp forest like this, metal hidden inside timber does not stay harmless for long. Moisture gets to it, rust begins, and with time, it starts damaging the wood around it. Bogdan avoids that problem entirely. He builds the door the old way, with wood joined to wood. The build is evolving again. The floor can handle daily use, the counters are ready for work, the windows keep out the weather, and the door can finally shut. Little by little, the place is becoming more than a shelter. Outside, the land is already giving back. Potatoes come from the soil, tomatoes hang from the vine, and corn is ready on the stalk. By dusk, what began as a stone shelter is becoming a working homestead, but much is still missing. The windows and door came in handy during a windy night. With the structure finally sealed, Bogdan's focus turns to comfort and ergonomics, starting with basic furniture and a structured outdoor living space. Bogdan finds the right log and starts with the smallest furniture first. He starts by making seating for the new kitchen counter. But instead of building traditional chairs, he opts for simple, three-legged stools. Why limit the design to 3 legs when he has plenty of wood? The answer lies on the floor. On uneven ground, 4 legs will constantly wobble. 3 points of contact naturally adapt to any bumps or slopes, sitting perfectly firm every time. While the stools are light and easy to move, his next project is the exact opposite. He heads out to find the right log for a proper bench, the biggest piece of furniture he has built so far. For Bogdan, this bench marks a turning point. He can finally start the project he has been waiting for since day one: a green front porch. Oriented exactly to face the sunset, he has designed this outdoor space with a single purpose: a dedicated area to finally rest at the end of the day, alongside his 2 dogs. The bench goes against the stone wall for a reason. All day, the masonry takes in warmth from the sun and stores it. By evening, it gives that heat back slowly. Placed against that thermal mass, the bench becomes its own small pocket of comfort. The bench is complete, but the space around it still feels raw. Right now, it is only a muddy edge outside the cabin. Bogdan wants something more deliberate, more livable, more like a true porch. For a start, he needs a fence. That alone will begin to turn the area from a muddy patch into something that feels more like a balcony. An improvised fire chars the bases of the fence posts, while Bogdan digs the post holes. Without power tools, this build has been a slow, methodical sequence of digging, lifting, and tying. And in that slowness, Bogdan has experienced something people rarely get anymore. The modern world is built on convenience and immediate results. But this environment dictates its own pace. Out here, there are no shortcuts to comfort, and every bit of progress has to be earned by hand. As the last pickets are tied in place, the feeling of the space changes immediately. What was open ground now begins to feel enclosed and intentional. The only thing left is to add a walkway firm enough to survive the routine of daily life and a layer of soft, living grass to eventually walk barefoot across the yard. While building, Bogdan had an idea. He noticed the heavy beam over the kitchen can be strong enough to carry more than the roof. It could carry a swinging chair too, a quiet place to sit and watch the sunset. For the seat, he needs a log split in half. The concept is easy, the splitting is not. Once again, he has to think of a clever idea to make the job easier. A thick rope, a wooden seat, and suddenly the structure gains another use. A place to sit and watch the light fade over the valley. But to stay outside after dark, the homestead needs light. Bogdan wants his cabin to stay useful after sunset, so he builds a simple lighting system of his own. He cuts and shapes long stakes, then wraps old orchard rags around the tops to make torch heads. Once lit, these torches serve a vital dual purpose. The fire illuminates the yard, while the thick smoke creates a natural barrier against the mosquitoes. One of the most relentless challenges of living off-grid. But But before daylight is gone, he has one last fundamental task to finish the cabin. Bogdan goes out to harvest the grass as living sod. He is not just gathering greenery, he is cutting out whole layers of rooted ground he can carry back to the cabin. Once laid in place, that living cover helps hold the soil together. The roots tie the surface down, slow erosion, and stop the rain from turning the area back into mud. The living system does not stop at the ground. It rises onto the roof as well. By hoisting intact rolls of sod over the compressed mud and hay, Bogdan completes the final layer of the weatherproofing system. Timber carries the load. Insulation traps the warmth. Mud and earth seal the roof and hold it down. Now, this last green layer completes it. The cabin no longer reads as something imposed on the land. It has begun to blend into the forest. And in a way, so has Bogdan. Working out here in isolation for so long, with only his four-legged companions, is a heavy test. There is nowhere for the mind to hide, no noise to disappear into, no modern stream of interruption. There is only the physical work and the long silence between each sound. For centuries, this valley has followed its own ancient rhythm. Seasons arrive, trees fall, and the earth reclaims whatever is left behind. When Bogdan first stood on this ground, he was just a visitor passing through. Now, he has taken the raw, chaotic materials of the forest and bound them together with time and sweat, creating his own perfect spot to detach in nature. Away from everyone and everything, a place of absolute peace.